humans.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I think it's going to be a nice day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so let's go over safety and we'll get that out of the way. All right, so if you guys like, you can straddle the seats like a horse. You can throw one leg out. You can also ride side saddle, but make sure the legs stay in, right? No side saddling on the outside.
Oh, no 2 legs over.
Yeah, no 2 legs
One leg
over.
over.
Always keep at least 1 leg in. And I always tell folks, if you fall off this boat, it was probably your fault. It most likely was your fault. Now, if somebody pushed you in,
It was probably
And it was their fault.
it was probably still your fault, right? It's probably a family member.
the one to get rid of you.
Yeah, and this has been compounding for some years. You know,
Perfect opportunity.
yeah, it's a pretty mean act to push somebody off a boat, especially when the water's 47 degrees and it's in a moving river. You know, so if you do fall off, just in case, you see that those ropes, grab those ropes if you can. But it is going to be shocking. Right? It's 47 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be very cold. If you get away from the boat, I'm going to throw you this throw ring. And it's not my bad aim. I'm going to throw it past you on purpose, and I'm going to direct you to grab it. Now, if you guys watch too many cartoons, don't try putting this thing on. Right? You can't wear it. It's just a grab on and let me pull you back in. And then for everybody else that's in the boat, if somebody does fall off, don't start jumping off the boat to be a hero. Because then every time there's more people off the
you
boat,
have to save.
that's more people we have to save, right? I got a fire extinguisher here in the event that we have a fire. We have gasoline, so no smoking. It's weird to say that. It's not the 1970s anymore. Things have changed.
People out vaping.
Smoking on tours and indoors. I still see people smoking in their cars. That seems strange to me. But anyway, center console. We've got the overheat kit, and the life jackets are in this center box right here. Most likely we won't need them, but now we should be okay. And then, but the one thing I need you guys to stay hydrated. Okay, so if you're thirsty right now, you've already entered the first stages. Now, it is really nice and cool right now, but it will heat up. So be prepared for a couple hours from now when the sun's going to hit us, and it's going to, it'll change drastically. It's going to go up to maybe 90 degrees is what we're going to see today. Yeah. So, which is nice because we get to ease into it today. You don't just get thrown on the coals right in the beginning, you know, and it's all just hot. So if you're thirsty now, start sipping your water. If you have your own water bottles, that's fine. See that jug up there? It's fresh water. I just scooped it out of the river this morning. So you'll know it's fresh. But if you didn't bring a water bottle, I have cups back here. Just ask me for a cup. They were just this morning before you guys got on the boat. There were 2 of them up here squawking and carrying on and flying around. We have great blue herons. Most likely going to see those guys. And this being here in the morning, this is where we see most of the activity with the wildlife. Once the sun comes up and everything heats up, they all hide. And in the morning, we have a much better chance of seeing the bighorn sheep. I don't want to get you guys too excited. The bighorn sheep are just like any one of us. We try to take that path of least resistance, right? So they don't come all the way down here to the river after it rains, generally. But that doesn't mean we won't see them. There's still a chance.
Like a movie?
No, it's movie.
But you're not running the whole trip.
I'm not going to do. And I can what? I usually just let it run without connecting because otherwise I'll drain the battery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's the same. I don't know if you've seen like the YouTube videos
No, I understand that part. I wasn't sure if you were going to tape the whole thing.
Oh, no,
It was decent. Yeah, that's what I figured. I've done that with GoPro cameras, like, skiing or something.
Yeah.
Put it on for the whole thing, and then you never watch
Yeah,
it
that
because
was
it's too
they
long.
put that there
yeah.
for
Yeah, no,
Lyndon B.
it's-
Johnson.
Oh, wow. Is that in the exit tunnel?
Yeah, that's one of the adits. There's actually 18 of those adits. You'll hear 19. That's not entirely true. The 19th adit is underneath of the catwalk we came down, and it was nothing more than an exploratory adit that only goes back about 30 feet and then it ends. Try to spin around here and I'll get you guys So, did you guys you guys know much about the osprey though?
Tell us.
Okay, so the ospreys, this is what makes the osprey really neat. The osprey is a great fishing bird, right? And so they can see the fish under the water and they dive feet first. And they'll hit the water like a bullet. Yeah, most birds go head first.
Right.
Osprey goes feet first.
Wow.
They're an evolutionary wonder is what they are. So when they hit the water, they have a 70% hit rate.
Wow.
And they actually curve in the water to get their fish, and they'll grab it, and then they'll use their wings to pull themselves up, and then they can leave that surface of the water. They're a very oily bird, If you're not an oily bird and you go in the water, you're not coming out of the water. You'll suck that water up like a sponge. So, and then once they get out of the water, they hold they reposition the fish, and they pull it up under their chest, and they point it head first, so that it's more aerodynamic when they fly. Oh, and the scales on their talons, they actually point upward rather than downward. So when they hit the fish, it grabs in like Velcro. Now this is the unfortunate thing. Most generally, osprey meet their demise by drowning. They're almost too perfect. It's usually overzealous young males, or they're
like
ill,
humans.
just like most species, I think. And they'll go for a fish that's too big, and they bite into it too hard, and they can't let go of it, and the fish will drag them under, and then they can't get back up in time, so they only have a short window to get out.
Something's singing over here.
Yeah. Can you hear it?
No, this one down here in the water. Oh, they're
More
ducks.
mallards.
Without a mom.
Yeah.
We hear him back there?
We also have our ducks that we have out here. We have mallards, black ducks, and mergansers. Mergansers are neat. They're a fishing duck, so they can actually swim under the water and cruise around.
Do they hibernate? I mean, do they?
I believe no. I think mergansers are one of our
Migrate.
Yeah, they're non-migratory.
Migrate.
Yeah. I believe the mallards, the mergansers, I think they stay throughout the year. Now I'm trying to learn all these birds, and so I once I have everything memorized about that bird, then I move to a new bird. But there's something like 200 species.
I'm sure. It's a good,
And,
good life goal.
Yeah, and only I think it was 20% of them are non-migratory. So there's a lot of species, but most of the birds are small,
Yeah.
songbirds, things like that. And I mean, you have basic stuff, but we do have what's called the canyon wren down here. And that's a really neat little bird.
That's a little bird.
Little bird about
Yeah.
that big, and he can walk up vertical rock walls. You can stick right to him.
Is it colorful?
No,
No.
no, and they're very hard to see. We see them sometimes, up at the dock, things like that, and you'll hear them.
Moms are probably right there.
I know their sound. I really like birds. I got books at home, little, I check them off,
Yeah.
I've seen them.
That's nice. I like birds too.
Yeah, I always tell people, I said, no one ever really intends to become a bird person. They just,
There's a bunch of different sounds going on.
it just kind of happens one day.
Yeah, there is definitely different birds.
Yeah, lots of
different
different
sounds.
We even get, we'll start seeing it about this time, about midsummer. The ravens and the peregrine falcons, they have these aerial battles.
Ah.
It's really neat. The ravens raid their nest.
Oh, the falcon's nest.
Yeah.
Ravens are not good. They're trouble.
They are trouble, but somebody gave them they got a big brain, so they're very intelligent. That's why they're trouble. They're very crafty.
Strategic.
Never underestimate them. There's some So, on this side of the river, keep your eyes open from top to bottom. This is the first place we might see the bighorn sheep. They're so big that you don't notice them. And the walls are climbing. Over here, we're already at something like 900 feet. Speaking of wildlife, this spot up here, we like to come around this corner with a little caution. This is where you tend to see a bit of the rarest wildlife we have down here. But we've been seeing them quite a bit more. They're more abundant this year, and that's the rosy-bottomed skinny dipper. We've seen quite a few, so I like to come around this corner with a little caution.
How do they get here? I guess by boat like this
Yep.
and then drop off and stay.
Oh, there they are.
Hopefully they haven't shed their fur yet. So we see them.
They think they're private.
I don't know, are they? I always
there's
said that
one.
rosy-bottomed skinny
There's one.
dipper.
Yeah. No, that's
No.
not one.
No.
He's got his fur on. Funny how they just put their umbrella on.
That is unusual.
So is that, do you need permits to go down there?
No, this is actually one of our the ropes trail that I mentioned back there. There's a campsite there. There's a campsite here. We have 5 campsites in total, and these are free campsites. You just got to get to them.
I think there's a bathroom even.
Yeah. Easy to get. And then you put in at Lee's Ferry where we'll take out, and you can, if you have a private boat like these guys, you drive up. If not, they have backhaul services, what they call them. And they bring them up and drop them off.
Boulder, that's all I know.
Colorado River.
Yeah.
That's it.
Horseshoe Bend.
Horseshoe Bend.
Horseshoe Bend.
Now, don't look at the sun, but the people are up there. I just did it. That's why I said don't do that.
There's people up there.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard to see with that sun, but there's the overlook is right there.
Oh, I see it. There's like little tiny people. But they're at the V.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, remember we started at 700 feet with the wall height?
Yeah.
That's 1,000 feet now. Pretty neat. So, after you guys leave here today, check out Google Earth and look at where you've been today on Glen Canyon, and look at all of Glen Canyon, and you'll see through Glen Canyon that there is you'll see this same Horseshoe Bend many times. Not exactly the same, but there's a lot of them. But you're going to see them in different stages of geological evolution. So what's happening is this river's trying to cut through the back of this rock. So when you look at Horseshoe Bend, it looks like a horseshoe, right? It's trying to cut through, and eventually it will cut through the back of this rock all the way, and it'll leave this rock a lone rock, and the river will flow behind it rather than around it. So this right here will become an oxbow lake or an abandoned meander. That's my favorite. That's just like the two most beautiful words together at the same time, abandoned meander. I always tell the kids, if you want to start a band, there you go. It needs to be a title of a novel, or at the very least a poem, you know? Abandoned meander. And it's a nice flow. Or you can, billabong, that's what in Australia they call them billabongs. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same as an oxbow?
Yep. I'm sure there's probably 1,000 different names across the world for them, but those are the three that I know.
Or it's flip flops.
Yep. I have what I call my electronic train set. All it is the app on my phone. I have my phone tagged to the phone. And I can just talk into it and it translates it for me as I talk to my wife over overnight. Or I'm pacing around back in the backyard.
Whatever you do, use it for me. There's a magic between my fingers. When I'm writing, I'm at my best. I'm at my best communication. I was pretty conscious.
Yeah, it's easier for me to, communicate when you're being right.
Yeah. And more effective.
I can tell it's odd, but nobody's wasting retract, rewrite.
Yeah, erase. Yeah, whatever you need.
Yeah, you guys would be there. They have to add to my interest instead. So what happened and what right now the title is Fear Movie Expansion of the Death Switch Battle.
Oh, wow.
Glen Canyon. And the Death Switch Battle.
Take off on the baby.
Yeah. It's a borrowed title. I can't.
He's reused his title.
Yeah. My title is Tree Wisdom right now, but it's going to change.
Yeah, they usually do.
No, that's my very short story.
Oh.
So,
That's her nonfiction book.
Or fiction for that.
Yeah.
remember we were talking about cubic feet per second? You know, the flow of a river? Now, you guys see this dark stuff, this staining or the desert varnish that's on the rock? And if you look down the road, it looks like it's been removed, right? You look down that way, about 20 feet up. That's 90,000 cubic feet per second, roughly. It could be, I've heard up to 110, but it just depends on you. We'll keep it around 90. So right now we're probably running about 11,000 cubic feet, 10,000 cubic feet per second. That's 90,000 cubic feet per second. And they had to run that for, they ran that for about 3 months. And 1980s when the lake hit full pull, 1983, well, the winter of 82 and 83, we had a succession of record blizzards up on the Rockies, and then a sudden summer like spring melt, and it all came down, right? And so the water was trying to get over the dam.
Oh, wow.
There were some folks that were in charge that were very nervous for a few months, I'm sure, and didn't sleep at all, and did a lot of pacing.
Wow.
So there was they had to run it full bore to keep that thing from coming apart. One of the spillways ripped itself to pieces. It was pretty crazy. They even had to they initially put plywood up at the top of it, and they did replace them with steel plates, but they had to put plywood along the top of the dam to keep the water from going over.
Wow.
Like I said, those are the Vermilion Cliffs. They're one of the steps in the grand staircase. You have the chocolate cliffs, the Vermilion Cliffs, the pink cliffs, the white cliffs, and the gray cliffs. This is just one of them. But this is a national monument here, this cliff line. It's a 300,000 acre plateau with a height of 6,500 feet above sea level. And it's pretty impressive. Oh, sorry. But where we are is Lee's Ferry. Now there is no ferry here, but there's no cliff dwellings and cliff dwellers, and there's no Lake of Jacob Lake. I do apologize for the confusion. But the truth is, this place did have a ferry. So 1871 to 1929, this was the way to get across. It's over 200 miles in either direction, upstream, downstream, before you could get to a place where you could put a ferry, even to get wagons across. So this place is named after John Doyle Lee.